You have been doing everything right. You go to the gym, you watch what you eat. You dress better than most men your age, and yet something is still off. Women look through you instead of at you. Younger men get noticed in rooms you walk into first, and nobody tells you why. Not your doctor, not your friends, not the fitness influencers selling you supplements. Because the real reason men over 50 stop getting noticed has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with a set of invisible signals your body is broadcasting right now. Signals that women read instantly, subconsciously, and permanently before you ever open your mouth. Today, I am going to tell you exactly what those signals are, and more importantly, I am going to tell you how to change them. Because what most men over 50 are experiencing is not the inevitable decline they were told to accept. It is a fixable biological and aesthetic drift that most men never even realize is happening to them. My name is Dr. Charles Bennett, and I have spent over 3 decades studying the intersection of men's health, hormonal aging, and what researchers call biological attractiveness signaling. I work primarily with men between the ages of 50 and 75, and I can tell you with absolute clinical certainty that the men who remain visually compelling, magnetic, and noticed well into their 60s and 70s are not lucky. They are not genetic outliers. They have simply, whether consciously or not, preserved or restored the specific physical and physiological signals that the female gaze is hardwired to respond to. If you're over 50 and you feel like you have become invisible, this is for you. This message could genuinely change the trajectory of the rest of your life. Here's what most men are never told. Attraction is not primarily social. It is biological. The female brain is not scanning a room asking who is the most confident man here. It is running an ancient involuntary assessment. Who looks vital? Who looks healthy? Who looks like they are winning against time? This is not shallow. This is evolutionary biology operating exactly as it was designed. And the brutal truth is that most men over 50 are unknowingly failing that assessment in 4 or 5 specific, measurable, correctable ways. Not because they are old, but because certain systems in their body have quietly shifted in ways that broadcast decline even when the man himself feels perfectly fine. The damage is silent. The signal it sends is not. Let us talk about the first and most misunderstood one. Most men over 50 think their biggest physical problem is their belly. It is not. It is their posture. And I do not mean posture in the way your mother told you to sit up straight at the dinner table. I mean structural posture, the actual resting position of your spine, your shoulders, your neck, and your pelvis when you are simply standing and moving through the world. Here's what happens inside your body as testosterone declines and as the decades of sitting, driving, and desk work accumulate. The muscles along your posterior chain, your glutes, your upper back, your rear deltoids, begin to weaken and lengthen. The muscles along your anterior chain, your chest, your hip flexors, your anterior neck become tight and shortened. The result is a posture that most men over 50 carry without even knowing it. Head slightly forward, shoulders slightly rounded, chest slightly caved, pelvis slightly tucked. Individually, each of these shifts is almost imperceptible. Together, they completely transform how your body reads to another person from across a room. A landmark study published in the journal Psychological Science found that postural cues were among the most powerful predictors of perceived dominance, health, and attractiveness across all age groups. Not face, not muscle, posture. Because posture is a direct visual signal of your nervous system's relationship with gravity. A man whose body is open, upright, and expanded reads as confident, capable, and healthy at a neurological level before a single conscious thought occurs in the observer. A man whose body is collapsed, forward, and contracted reads as defeated, fragile, and declining. These are not opinions. They are hardwired perceptual responses that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. I had a patient, 58 years old, former college athlete, still active, sharp, successful. He came to me frustrated. He told me women in his social circle had stopped engaging with him the way they used to. He had not gained significant weight. He was not sick, but something had shifted. Within 4 minutes of watching him walk across the room, I knew exactly what it was. His head sat nearly 2 inches in front of his shoulders. His thoracic spine had developed a significant kyphotic curve. Every step he took communicated something he would never consciously say. He looked like a man who had been beaten by something, not by a person, by life, by time, by invisible weight. The fix is not complicated, but it requires consistency. Begin every single morning with 3 movements before you look at your phone, before you eat, before anything. First, a doorway chest stretch held for 60 seconds on each side to open the pectoral fascia that has been tightening overnight. Second, a prone cobra, lying face down, hands at your sides, lifting your chest off the floor using only your back muscles, held for 10 seconds and repeated 8 times. This reactivates the posterior chain muscles that have been inhibited by years of anterior dominance. Third, chin tucks sitting upright, gently drawing your chin straight back to bring your head over your shoulders, held for 5 seconds. 10 repetitions. A study published in the Journal of Physical Therapy Science found that a consistent morning postural routine reduced forward head posture by an average of 43% over 12 weeks. That is not a small cosmetic change. That is a complete transformation in how your body signals vitality to the world around you. Start this tomorrow morning. Not next week. Tomorrow morning. Now here's something that will surprise you. The second reason men over 50 become visually invisible has nothing to do with their body. It has everything to do with their face, specifically with what has happened to the fat compartments under their skin over the last decade. Between the ages of 45 and 65, the average man loses between 20 and 35% of the subcutaneous facial fat in key areas: the temples, the mid-cheek, the area just below the eyes, the jawline. This process is called facial volume deflation, and it is one of the least discussed but most visually impactful changes in male aging. Because here is what that volume loss actually does. It does not just make you look older. It changes the geometry of your face. Eyes that once looked sharp and clear begin to look sunken and tired. A jawline that once looked defined begins to look soft and undefined as the tissue above it deflates and descends. Cheeks that once provided youthful projection begin to flatten, pulling the entire mid-face downward and creating a visual heaviness that reads, at a subconscious level, as illness and decline. Most people will never know this, but the female gaze is extraordinarily sensitive to facial geometry, not to individual features in isolation, but to the spatial relationships between features. The distance from the eye to the cheekbone, the definition of the jaw relative to the neck, the light that catches or does not catch the mid-face. When facial volume deflates, those ratios shift in ways that trigger an involuntary perception of poor health and low vitality, even in men who are objectively in excellent health. You are not being judged. You are being read, and your face is broadcasting a signal your biology did not intend. Here's what happens inside your body that most doctors never explain. Facial fat loss after 50 is significantly accelerated by 3 things that most men are doing right now without realizing it. Chronic low-grade dehydration, inadequate dietary fat intake from the sustained low-fat diet culture of the last several decades, and elevated cortisol from chronic stress, which directly accelerates the breakdown of subcutaneous facial adipose tissue. A major study published in Dermatologic Surgery found that men with chronically elevated cortisol showed measurably faster rates of facial volume loss than age-matched controls with normal cortisol levels. Your stress is aging your face faster than time is. I treated a patient, 63 years old, retired, financially comfortable, in genuinely good health. He came to me after his girlfriend of 2 years told him that lately he'd looked, and this was her word, tired. Not old, tired. He was sleeping 8 hours. He was not tired. But his face was communicating exhaustion that his body was not feeling, because the structural volume that once gave his face life had quietly disappeared. We addressed his cortisol through a combination of ashwagandha supplementation, a structured sleep protocol, and the addition of healthy fats back into his diet. Over 6 months, His facial quality visibly improved, not because we injected anything, because we stopped the biological process that was draining it. The fix is 3 things you can start today. First, drink a minimum of 3.5 liters of water daily and add a pinch of Himalayan salt and a squeeze of lemon to your morning water to improve cellular hydration uptake. Second, add healthy fats back into every single meal: avocado, olive oil, fatty fish, whole eggs. These are not threats to your heart. In appropriate amounts, they are the raw materials your facial skin and subcutaneous tissue need to maintain volume and elasticity. Third, take your stress regulation seriously. Not as a luxury, as medicine. A consistent 10-minute breathwork practice in the evening, specifically box breathing, 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, has been shown in multiple studies to measurably reduce circulating cortisol within 3 weeks. Your face will follow. The third signal is one I consider the most quietly devastating because it affects everything else on this list, and it is operating in almost every man over 50 right now. It is testosterone decline, not absence, decline, because most men over 50 are not in clinical hypogonadism. Their levels are not so low that any doctor will flag them. They are simply operating at 60 or 70% of the testosterone they had at 35, and that 30 to 40% reduction is enough to change everything. Not just libido, not just energy. The physical signals your body broadcasts to the world. Here is what happens inside your body when testosterone quietly falls into the lower range of normal. Muscle protein synthesis slows. The lean mass that gave your frame definition and your posture its foundation begins to erode. Subcutaneous and visceral fat, particularly in the midsection and chest, begins to accumulate even in men whose diet has not changed. Skin thickness and collagen density decrease, accelerating the visible aging of both face and body. Voice resonance can subtly reduce. Even the way a man moves, the purposefulness of his gait, the natural confidence of his physical presence, is influenced by testosterone at a neurological level. A study published in Hormones and Behavior found that men with lower testosterone were rated by independent observers as visually less dominant, less healthy, and less attractive, controlling for age and body weight. That is not an opinion about masculinity. That is biology broadcasting through your body whether you want it to or not. I had a patient 57 years old who came in for an annual physical feeling, in his words, fine. His testosterone was 340 nanograms per deciliter. Technically, within the normal range. But the normal range for a 57-year-old man is not the same as optimal. His body fat was 27%. He had visible gynecomastia, breast tissue accumulation from the testosterone to estrogen conversion that accelerates when testosterone declines. He had lost significant muscle mass from his upper body, and he carried himself with the slightly contracted, slightly defeated posture I described earlier, not because of his spine, but because his nervous system was operating on a hormonal signal that said retreat. His own biology was making him invisible. The fix begins with getting your hormone panel tested, not just total testosterone, free testosterone, SHBG, estradiol, LH, and FSH. This is a conversation to have with your doctor. But while you are having that conversation, there are proven natural interventions that support healthy testosterone levels in men over 50. Resistance training at least 3 times per week, specifically compound movements, squats, deadlifts, rows, overhead pressing. A major study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that consistent resistance training increased free testosterone levels in men over 50 by an average of 24% over 16 weeks. Sleep optimization, because over 70% of daily testosterone is produced during deep sleep, and every hour of sleep deprivation below 7 hours measurably reduces next-day testosterone levels. Zinc and magnesium glycinate supplementation, both of which are critically involved in testosterone synthesis and are chronically deficient in most men over 50 eating a standard Western diet. and the elimination of chronic alcohol consumption, even moderate, because alcohol is a direct aromatase activator, meaning it accelerates the conversion of testosterone into estrogen in the male body. Your testosterone is not a number on a lab report, it is the biological foundation of your physical presence. Protecting it is not vanity, it is medicine. Now, we need to talk about something that sits at the intersection of health and aesthetics, and that most men over 50 are getting catastrophically wrong. Clothing fit. I know. You expected me to say something more clinical, but hear me out. Because the science on this is real and the impact is immediate. The female visual system performs rapid, automatic assessments of male body proportions. Specifically, the shoulder-to-waist ratio, the V-taper, is one of the most consistently identified visual predictors of male physical attractiveness across cultures and across age groups. A study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B found that men with a higher shoulder-to-waist ratio were rated as more attractive, healthier, and more dominant by female observers universally, regardless of the observer's own age or cultural background. Here's the problem. Most men over 50 are actively destroying their shoulder-to-waist ratio with their clothing choices. Shirts that are too large. Trousers that sit too low or too high and billow instead of drape. Jackets that are a size too big from a decade ago when the shoulders were a different shape. Every extra inch of fabric around your midsection visually expands your waist and visually shrinks your shoulders. The V-taper disappears. Your body reads as soft, undefined, and low vitality, even if underneath those clothes your actual proportions are entirely respectable. This is not about fashion. This is about signal management when your clothing fits correctly, meaning shirts that follow the shoulder seam exactly, that taper at the torso, that end at the hip without excess fabric billowing below, when your trousers sit correctly at the waist and break cleanly at the shoe. Your body's actual proportions are communicated accurately. And for most men over 50 who have maintained any reasonable level of fitness, those actual proportions are far more attractive than what their current clothing is broadcasting. The fix is the single afternoon with a tailor. Not expensive, not vain, effective. I had a patient, 61 years old, who I genuinely could not convince to change his supplement protocol, his sleep schedule, or his exercise routine. He thought all of it was excessive. But he agreed to take 3 shirts and 2 pairs of trousers to a tailor. He spent less than $80. The transformation in how women responded to him and his social circle was, by his own account, immediate and significant. His body had not changed. His hormones had not changed. His posture had not fully changed yet, but his signal had changed. Because clothing that fits correctly communicates a man who is in control of his presentation, a man who pays attention to himself, a man who has standards. And those are the signals that precede attraction. The 5th signal is the one most men completely ignore, and it is by the evidence the one that silently disqualifies more men over 50 from attraction than any other single factor. It is skin quality, not skin care in the cosmetic vanity sense. Skin health as a direct visible signal of your internal biological state. Because here is what women are actually reading when they look at a man's face and neck and hands. They are reading his immune function, his inflammatory load, his hydration status, his sleep quality, his cortisol levels, and his hormonal health, all of it, simultaneously, without knowing they are doing it. The human visual system evolved to read skin as a health proxy with extraordinary precision. Dull, gray, dehydrated skin signals poor circulation and low vitality. Persistent redness or rosacea signals chronic inflammation or vascular dysfunction. Deep-set lines combined with visible pore enlargement signals chronic cortisol elevation and collagen degradation. Uneven pigmentation signals accumulated oxidative stress and UV damage. None of these are aesthetic complaints. They are biological broadcasts. A study published in the journal PLOS ONE found that skin color evenness, independent of wrinkles and independent of age, was one of the strongest single predictors of perceived health and attractiveness in male faces. Not the absence of wrinkles, not youth, evenness, clarity, vitality. These are achievable at any age, and most men over 50 are doing almost nothing to support them. Here's what happens inside your body that is directly visible on your skin. Collagen synthesis declines approximately 1% per year after age 25, meaning by 55 you have roughly 30% less collagen than you did at 25. Cellular turnover, the rate at which your skin replaces dead surface cells with new ones, slows dramatically. The result is a dull, uneven texture because old cells are sitting on the surface longer. Chronic inflammation driven by poor diet, poor sleep, alcohol, processed food, and chronic stress manifests directly in the skin as redness, puffiness, broken capillaries, and accelerated degradation of the extracellular matrix that gives skin its firmness and structure. I treated a patient, 55 years old, who was genuinely mystified by the fact that he felt and functioned like a healthy man but looked, as he described it, worn. His skin was dull, he had significant redness across his cheeks and nose. His under-eye area was persistently dark and slightly puffy. His hands, which he used constantly in his work as a contractor, looked decades older than the rest of him. His skin was not sick, it was unsupported. Nobody had ever told him that skin is an organ, his largest organ, and that it responds to what you do and do not give it with the same precision that your cardiovascular system or your gut microbiome does. The fix is a non-negotiable daily minimum that takes 4 minutes. A gentle cleanser, morning and evening, to remove the oxidative debris and environmental pollutants that sit on your skin and accelerate degradation overnight. A vitamin C serum applied in the morning after cleansing, because topical vitamin C is the single most evidence-backed intervention for improving skin clarity, evening pigmentation, and stimulating collagen synthesis in aging male skin. A broad-spectrum SPF 30 or higher applied every single morning, regardless of whether you plan to be outside. A study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that consistent daily sunscreen use reduced visible skin aging by 24% over a 4.5-year period compared to a control group. And a basic moisturizer in the evening containing either hyaluronic acid or glycerin to support the cellular hydration that your declining testosterone is no longer maintaining as efficiently as it once did. 4 minutes. Every day. The return on that investment in how your face reads to the world is, by the evidence, extraordinary. Now here's the piece that ties all of this together, because you might be thinking that these are 5 separate problems requiring 5 separate solutions. They are not. They are 5 expressions of one underlying reality. Your body is aging, and aging creates biological drift away from the signals that communicate vitality, health, and attractiveness. But that drift is not irreversible. It is not fate. It is a set of addressable biological and behavioral inputs that, when corrected, restore your signal. Posture tells the world your nervous system is confident and capable. Facial volume tells the world your hormones and stress are managed. Testosterone levels tell the world your body is still optimized. Clothing fit tells the world you're in command of your presentation. Skin quality tells the world your biology is thriving. When all 5 are working, you do not look younger. You look vital, and vitality is not age-specific. It is the signal that has always driven attraction at every age, in every culture, across all of human history. Stop right now and think honestly. How many of these 5 signals are you currently neglecting? How long has that been true? Because here is what nobody tells men over 50. The window does not close. The biology does not lie down. Your body has been working for you in silence for 5, 6, 7 decades without asking for much in return. It still has capacity that you have not accessed. It still has the ability to signal health, strength, and presence in ways that will change how the world responds to you. But it will not do that without your active participation. Here is your complete daily protocol. In the morning, immediately upon waking before your phone, perform the 3-movement postural routine described earlier: doorway chest stretch, prone cobra, chin tucks, followed by 3.5 liters of water with salt and lemon begun throughout the day. Take your vitamin C serum and sunscreen after washing your face. Eat breakfast that includes healthy fat, avocado, olive oil, eggs, to support both testosterone production and facial tissue quality. In the evening, do your resistance training on 3 non-consecutive days per week, prioritizing compound movements. Take your zinc and magnesium glycinate 30 minutes before bed. Perform your 4-minute skincare routine. Do 10 minutes of box breathing to regulate cortisol before sleep. Be in bed with lights off by 10:30 p.m. to protect the deep sleep window where 70% of your testosterone is produced. Men who follow this protocol consistently for 90 days report improvements across all 5 signal categories. This is not speculation. This is biology working the way it was designed. You are not broken. You are not past your prime. You are operating with a set of inputs that no longer match the biological outputs your body is capable of producing. That is fixable. Every single item on this list is fixable, and you can start tonight. Not next month when you feel motivated. Not after the holidays. Tonight. 'Cause every night you spend with elevated cortisol, degrading your facial tissue, with a hormone panel that nobody has looked at closely enough, with clothing that misrepresents your actual body, with skin that is broadcasting a signal of neglect you never consciously chose, is a night that compounds. But so does every night you spend doing something about it. Your body has been working for you across decades of stress and time in biology. It is asking you now for something very specific and very manageable in return. Pay attention to it. Give it what it needs. Take back the signal. I am Dr. Charles Bennett, and I will see you in the next video. If what you heard today changed something for you, subscribe to this channel. Every week I share health information specifically for men over 50, explained clearly without the noise. If this reached you, hit like, because it helps this message find the men who need it most and may never think to search for it. Drop a comment below and write, "I am starting tonight," not because I am asking for engagement, because the act of writing it makes it real. And share this with someone you care about, a brother, a friend, a partner, a father. You may never know whose life you quietly change.